for which it
one
stands,
nation, under God,
nation, indivisible,
liberty and
with
justice
justice for all.
With liberty and justice for all.
So we have a published agenda and consent agenda items for this meeting. I don't think there's any changes. Any motion?
Move to approve the agenda and consent agenda.
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Then motion carries. We have an agenda and approved consent agenda items. We didn't receive any public comments, verbal public comments for this meeting. And so our first agenda item is under public hearings. And first up on that is Ryan Andrews talking about the Capital City Estates and Chambers Estates annexation.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. We did have individuals signed up to testify.
Oh, really? Oh, I'm sorry. I guess I missed that in my email here. So that said that we didn't have any. Oh, looks like we do. Sorry. First up. Sorry. Thank you for that. Our first up is Thomas Oatman.
Hello, Thomas Oatman here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you obviously give us your name and keep your comments about 3 minutes?
We're limiting our time now. My first question is, why does the city of Lacey want to annex Chambers Estates? I'm from Chambers Estates.
So this is public comment. You have this is usually not back and forth with the public. You can you'll usually give some comments and.
Mr. Mayor, this sounds like this would be appropriate comment for the public hearing coming up on the next agenda item. This specific public comment period is for items not on the agenda.
My mistake.
Thank you. Do you have anything you want to comment on items not on the agenda?
Negative. No.
Okay. Then we can hear from you back in under the public. 1 moment. Under the public comment section of our public hearing. The next up is Danny Burkett. Here, Danny, if you can unmute yourself.
All right. Hello. How y'all doing?
Be good.
Good. My comment is this, that it's a question, but it's more of a comment that can be used later on. Of course, as some of y'all know that I work with the homeless youth. Recently, I just had one of my youth to overdose and die. She was 17 years old. And I was just trying to figure out, wondering, what are we going to do about our youth out there on the streets? It's really hard for me to talk about right now because it just happened. And I understand the homeless population as a whole, but the youth are being shadowed by the adult population. And I go to outreach throughout the week for years and it seems like nothing is getting done for our youth. Understand the adult, I'm talking about specifically for our youth 25 and under. I don't see nothing done, no shelters, none of that stuff is going on in Thurston County. And I just want to know, what are we going to do about it? That's all my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. Then next up, we have Gina Stanton.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, please introduce yourself and keep your comments about 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Gina Stanton, and I'm a union rep for UFCW 367. I represent grocery workers in Lacey, and I would like to speak on behalf of the workers who cannot attend this meeting in support of a hazard pay ordinance. Many of our members have been sending emails describing what it's been like working in the grocery store during this pandemic. For those of you who have not heard, I would like to share some of what my members have told me while I visit the stores. Customers have coughed on them when they've asked customers if they needed a mask. Some have had groceries thrown at them if they have told customers there's a limit on certain items. Rather than limiting how many people are in the stores, the checkers are told to check faster by management. Customers have gotten into arguments over mask wearing and a gun was pulled. Entire departments have been closed down due to a positive COVID case and the rest needing to quarantine. There are new strains of the virus, so the vaccine doesn't guarantee you won't get COVID. Masks must still be worn. This pandemic isn't over. These workers cannot work from home like so many, but still they show up. Easter is this Sunday, and the grocery workers will be there for you so you can get everything you need to celebrate. Please pass hazard pay for hardworking grocery workers who continue to go to work so you can have food on the table. Thank you.
Thanks. And then it looks like our last person who signed up for public comment is Charlotte. Can you unmute yourself and introduce yourself and keep your comments about 3 minutes? You're still on mute there.
Can you hear me now?
Yep. Thank you, Charlotte.
Very good. Thank you for your time. My name is Charlotte Verdini. I'm from Shelton, Washington. I'm here to speak on behalf of my grocery coworker brother and sisters. Early in the pandemic, I remember driving to work my 3 a.m. shift at Fred Meyer in Tumwater. I was listening to a news story expressing sympathy for the plight of frontline workers. Nurses, EMTs, firefighters were mentioned. I remember thinking, where do they think their food comes from? Who stocks it? It's been a year now, and the collective weight of this experience has burdened us workers heavily. We weren't given a choice as to whether we wanted to or could work. We were deemed essential. I work with a single mother of 3. She's been trying to balance the demands of childcare, homeschooling, long work days, all on her $17.85 wage this year. Another contracted COVID while at work, then she unwillingly passed it on to the others in her department. She now joins thousands of other COVID survivors who experience long-term effects that are painful and make it difficult for her to work. The discarded gloves and masks that litter the ground after our shopping trips. Who are the custodians of these? We grocery workers have been here through it all. I think about my own experience of working 13-hour days, coming home and decontaminating before I entered my home so that I wouldn't potentially infect my husband, who takes a powerful immunosuppressant, being jokingly coughed on by the virus naysayers. Some of you may be thinking that this is all in the past, thanks to the vaccines that are now available, but your constituents definitely do not think this. They're still buying rice and cans of tomatoes in groups of 10s and 20s. I know this because I'm an e-commerce clerk and I shop for them. Just last week, CDC Director Rochelle Walensky, she warned of the likely surge in virus numbers due to both the lifting of safety mandates and the virus variants that are happening. This is not over. Grocery workers are on the front line of this battle, and we are vulnerable. We're vulnerable to the disease, to the whims of our employers' so-called ideas of safety, and to the public who isn't always aware of what we do and what we provide. Hazard pay is as essential as we are and may help to restore some equilibrium to families whose lives have been affected by the backbreaking work and suffering of the last 13 months and the work that is sure to come. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Charlotte. That is the end of our public comment on items not on the agenda. I'm not sure how I missed that earlier. I thought it said no public comment on items on the agenda. And so now we will go to our first regular agenda item, which is the public hearing, again, on the Capital City Estates and Chamber Estates annexation. Well, now I'll turn it back over to Ryan.
Come on. Right, there we go.
Hey.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Give me 1 second to be able to share my screen. All right, good afternoon. So the city has received a petition for annexation for the area, including Capital City Golf Club Estates, Chambers Estates, the Capital City Townhomes, and the Capital City Golf Course. Prior to approval of the annexation, a public hearing is required to be held by the City Council, and that's the purpose of why I'm here this afternoon. After the public hearing has been held, procedurally, the next step is that the application is sent to the Thurston County Boundary Review Board for review after the hearing has been held. And so after the public hearing, the staff's recommendation is the council pass a motion sending this to the Boundary Review Board. A little bit about the area proposed for annexation. As you can see on your screen there, located at the very south end of Lacey in the Horizons planning area. The area in purple is the area proposed to be annexed, which is currently located in the Lacey urban growth area. The area in green is the area that is currently in the city limits. So as you can see, the proposed area to be annexed is surrounded on almost all four sides by city limits. So as I mentioned, this area includes Capital City Golf Club Estates, Chambers Estates, and the Capital City Townhomes, generally located south of Yelm Highway, north of 66th Avenue Southeast, east of the Chehalis Western Trail, and west of Ruddle Road. The 2020-2021 assessed value of these parcels is a little bit more than $134 million. This next slide shows the number of power of attorney agreements that the city holds regarding annexation in this area. So the city has initiated the annexation on behalf of those parcels where we do hold power of attorneys. Those are shown in pink on the screen here. The assessed value, the current assessed value of these parcels with power of attorney agreements in place is just a little under $100 million, representing 74.4% of the assessed valuation, which is well over the 60% required under the petition method of annexation. Here's an aerial photograph, a recent aerial photograph of the area to be annexed. It's largely developed, contains the Capital City Estates subdivision that was developed along with the Capital City Golf Course in the 1960s, around the same time as the Chambers Estates subdivision, which is located west of Rainier Road. Capital City Townhomes are condominiums located off Yelm Highway near the clubhouse in the northeast area of the proposed annexation area. The area contains approximately 470 dwelling units and an estimated population of 965 people. Here's the zoning for the area. It is all zoned low density residential, 0 to 4 units per acre. The purpose of this zone is to provide a single family residential designation with lower densities and larger lot sizes. Upon annexation, the zoning would remain the same in accordance with agreements that we have with Thurston County. The area is a logical extension of the city limit boundary. As I mentioned, it is essentially an unincorporated island surrounded on all sides by the city limits. And by annexing this would eliminate some issues with irregular boundaries. The area is within the Lacey Water Service area. Actually, this is a map here containing the sewer service. It is an older map. The sewer, as you're well aware, is being installed in kind of the eastern portion of Capital City Estates as we speak. You have recently authorized the construction of phase 2 of the sewer extension project through the western side of Capital City Estates. And that is how we got so many of the power of attorney agreements. Here's the water lines. We do have a significant amount of water infrastructure in the area, including a city well, which is well number 4, located off of Sarazen Street. Both the water and sewer service will be sized to adequately serve the existing and future development, any existing and future development within the area. A couple additional items related to governmental services that I wanted to mention before turning it over to you to hold the hearing is that, first of all, public streets in this area will receive stormwater services. So the stormwater utility will be served by the city of Lacey upon annexation. Anything that is private will remain private. Police services will be assumed by the city of Lacey Police Department. The police department anticipated that this area would require service of about 1,100 calls per year. Typical service for the entire Lacey Police Department is between 42,000 and 46,000 calls of service per year. So the Lacey Police Department did not anticipate a much larger than current demand for law enforcement services. Fire District 3 serves fire services within the annexation area, except for the Chambers Estate subdivision, which is currently in Fire District 6. Upon annexation, the area that is within Fire District 6 is transferred to Fire District 3. So Chambers Estates Fire District would change upon annexation. The last thing I wanted to mention is related to our streets. The city of Lacey, upon annexation, would take over annexation of the public streets in the area. Private streets would be remain private. So those internal streets within Capital City Estates would remain private. Those that are public outside of Capital City Estates and within Chambers Estates would be maintained by the city staff, and as well as the street lights. Any street lights that are privately owned and maintained, those would remain private. Any public street lights would be owned and operated. We would actually pay the bill for those services. City staff conducted a public informational forum back on March 8th to provide more information to residents on how the annexation would affect taxes and services. We did have about 60 residents register for that forum. If anybody wants to view that, it was recorded and has been posted on Lacey's YouTube channel. So as I mentioned, the next step is for you to conduct a public hearing tonight to take public testimony on the annexation. After the annexation, staff is recommending that you make a motion or approve a motion to send this to the Boundary Review Board. I did want to make mention too that we did not receive any written public comments related to the hearing tonight. So there is no written public comments. So with that, I'll turn it over to you to hold the public hearing.
Okay, I will now close our regularly scheduled meeting and then open up this public hearing on the Capital City Chamber Estates annexation. And as we found out, we do have one person who signed up to testify on this annexation, and it's Thomas Oatman. Thomas, sorry, can you come back in and give your testimony? You can unmute yourself. Appreciate it.
Hello.
There you go.
Can anyone hear me? Thomas Oatman here.
Great. Now you've received a little bit of background information from the city standpoint, and go ahead and please let us know what you're thinking.
Where to start? A couple of years ago, there was a vote taken on this annexation, and I believe it was overwhelmingly voted down. Do any of you folks recall that? I think it was in 2018.
I'm not aware of an official vote that was taken.
Well, there were certainly some public forums held at Horizon Point, but it was overwhelmingly the homeowners were opposed to it. And my recollection, it was determined there was a water quality issue from, I think, well number 4 in Capital City Golf Course. Isn't that what drove the sewer connection there to eliminate septic systems? Yes, no?
But we're here to hear your testimony, sir.
Okay. I'm new at the protocol for these meetings, but there's no benefit to any of my neighbors in Chambers Estates to be annexed. We're going to get stuck with about $1,000 a year more in property taxes and no benefit. And your comment that there was a petition filed for the annexation was only after you provided free sewer connection services in exchange for power of attorney agreements. That's kind of a flawed way to get votes out of people, in my opinion. And the folks here in Chambers Estates were not made the same offer because we didn't have a well. It was spoiled. And it's believed that all of the fertilizer that has been used on the golfing greens contributed to the high nitrate levels that were discovered there. Perhaps not from the septic systems, but further than that, the direct petition method, I think, the direct petition method. Typically, when there's an annexation, there's a election method. You folks are familiar with that? That's kind of the common accepted method of annexing properties. No comment.
There's several ways for annexations to happen. Yes,
I know, but I believe the first and foremost is an election method, which it failed years ago. And by obtaining all of these power of attorney agreements at a cost of, I don't know, it was about $10 million for the hookup of all the sewers. You folks elected to use this alternate method, this direct petition method. I don't believe there was any outcry from the citizens begging to be annexed, but you did get the power of agreement in exchange for that. And what I think is kind of a backdoor way, you found this, whatever method, this alternate method. And I just want it known that no one in our neighborhood wants to be annexed. There's nothing in it for us. It almost appears those homeowners were bribed in exchange for their votes, and now you're trying to roll us in. We're not part of the golf course. We're separate 1 acre lots that really don't want to be part of the city of Lacey. So there's my comment. I don't know how this public policy, is there any chance this can be done in person with the vaccines in place and the level of safety now? I think we're being quieted.
This was the opportunity that we had for everyone and to give public comment on this topic. So it's right now is our public comment period for this session.
Well, we all know not everybody has access to Zoom meetings or knows how to get connected. My connection is not very good. It simply eliminates many of the participants in this process. I think a public hearing should be mandatory for something like this. And I think the pandemic is being used to skirt that idea.
Yeah, is there anything else you wish to add?
Well, I'm looking at my list. Let me see. No, I think I've said it. We don't like it. It stinks. It was a slippery way of getting around the rules. You bought $10 million worth of sewer connections for a bunch of boats, and now you got your annexation.
Thank you for your public comment.
That's it.
And as far as I know, Thomas was the only person who signed up to comment on this public hearing. And so with that, I am going to close the public hearing and open back up our regular scheduled meeting. And so now there is a recommendation from our staff to send this Capital City Estates, Chamber of Estates annexation to the Boundary Review Board. No, I also move that. Is there a second?
Scott has his hand up.
Go ahead,
Mayor.
Scott.
Well, I just want to state both Chambers Estate and also Capital City Golf Course is within the urban growth area. This has been a topic of discussion for multiple decades, even before I came to the city. It does beg the question, at what point does the city annex these areas? I do maybe take exception to the fact that the assertion that somehow the city, somehow tried to buy off a process to basically do annexation. The fact is that we did a major investment in Capital City Golf Course. We did get powers of attorney. The system of annexation is really through assessed value. That's the more common method of annexation. If you have the 60% assessed valuation methodology, obviously the city can do initiation. We never did take a public vote. We did some public outreach back 2-3 years ago. There was general discussion. There were people that questioned why they would be part of the city. But I could also make the counter argument too. There's also when the city actually absorbed these areas, actually will cost the city more to actually provide service to these areas. However, if you look at the Growth Management Act, at some point, this is supposed to be the full realization of the city. And it doesn't make sense to have irregular boundaries or have inefficient government have these pockets or islands within our own city limits. And so that's been some of the discussion we've had over the past 3 decades. So I just wanted to state that to council.
Yeah, specifically about Chamber Estates, which this gentleman was talking about. We've been in meetings with Lacey Fire District 3, and this has been a long source of issues for the other fire district, right? So in almost every single case, Lacey Fire District 3 is the closer district to this house, to these homes here. And so what happens if someone has a fire, it's most likely Lacey Fire District 3 is going to have to respond to that because they're considerably closer. And so they've been receiving those services, or if there's an emergency, it takes a lot longer for Fire District 7 or wherever to get to that rate. Yeah, to get over to Chambers Estates. And so there's been a lot of conversations over the years saying it doesn't really make sense for this to be in Fire District. It makes more sense for this to be in Fire District 3, and the way that happens is through annexation. Obviously, the other service they are going to be receiving is the Lacey Police Department, and so that is a huge benefit, I believe, for the people there. So there's a lot to be said about having more efficient government, and I think this is a good example when this area is completely surrounded by the city of Lacey. It obviously makes a lot of sense for the city of Lacey to provide those services, to these residents. So, is there any other discussion? I made a motion. Is there a second?
I would second.
Then moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Councilmember Stedman.
Thank you, Mayor. Council's probably pretty aware that my family used to live in that neighborhood. I know a lot of the residents, almost like family myself. I do agree and totally support the fact that they're getting essentially free fire service, free public safety service. Officers, if they're closer than the sheriff's deputy, they're responding. It's just safety issue. It goes on and on and on. But at the core of my platform, where I really have a problem with this, is when I firmly believe that every person and every business and every community needs to be treated fairly and equally. And if the Chambers Estates were included in these, in the sewer connection, I would have no issue, because I think in the greater good of being on sewer as compared to these septic systems and essentially being a big danger to closing down well 4. If we had to shut that well down, we'd be in serious trouble. Millions, that it could be a serious problem. But I go back to my struggle where one side of the fence is getting sewer hookup for powers of attorney and the other side of the fence isn't. And for that, it's at the core of my values that we all get treated fairly. And though I support this in my core, I can't vote for it because of that simple issue that some residents are getting something and other residents aren't.
Well,
Even though I do agree with it.
I think they're on sewer right there already, and there are Lacey.
They're on water. They're on city water, but they're not on sewer.
Okay, Deputy Mayor.
Well, they have the opportunity to get rid of any kind of septic tank, septic systems. They could have signed up for it, and they refused. It's not our fault, particularly. So,
Councilor Kunkel.
Yeah, my only issue with this approach, and I think the gentleman made a good point about the perception that the public have about access and being able to have a conversation with their public officials. Given this COVID environment has been very difficult, and yet we're still conducting Lacey business and making big decisions like this one. We only had one, I believe the gentleman's name was Tom Oakman, correct? Yeah, so we only had one public comment from him. I would believe that if we did have our city hall open, that we would have a little more input, particularly from that Chambers Estates neighborhood. And but that being said, I understand why we're doing this. It does make sense from a service standpoint. It does not make sense to exclude them from the annexation plan. Just going to make things look like a bigger etch-a-sketch. So I get that. I understand the importance of why they should be included in this package. But it just goes back to my point that we do need to figure out a way to get City Hall open, to get back behind the dais, to start having public comments where the public is actually in City Hall talking to us to hold us accountable for what we're here to do. So that was my only comment. Thank you.
Is there any other comments? Then seeing none, there's a motion.
well, I do have one quick comment.
Okay.
I do know that those in our urban growth area in that area use all our business services that we prepare for just outside that are in our own city limits, our grocery stores, etc. So they're actually getting services that they aren't paying for streets, etc. as they go shopping.
Well, obviously, when you're completely surrounded by the city, they're using all of our public streets, they're using all of our public parks, they're using all the city services, and it is a issue about being treated fair, right? And the other issue is they are receiving the water that's right there at the well, as that would be massively affected as well. So, I mean, for all those reasons, it makes a lot of sense for them to finally come into the city of Lacey. So, Councilor Miller.
Yeah. So isn't correct me if I'm wrong, but this is part of the bigger plan that has always been in place, which is to bring unincorporated areas into the city. That's always been the big game plan from the beginning. The county, I don't think, was ever truly designed to, do city functions, provide. I mean, they have the means to provide services, but they can't provide them at the level that we can. And it was always part of the design to bring up and raise up the standards in the areas, in the communities, and then bring them into the city. That's been the plan for what, 100 years or so?
It's been ever since the urban, the Growth Management Act came about. And so, yes, and Lacey does have the largest unincorporated areas for sure within the three, within all the urban growth areas within our county. There's no doubt about it. And there's been a plan in place for quite a long time where a hope to bring those unincorporated areas into the city of Lacey so they can provide urban services. That's correct. So is there any other discussion? Then it's been moved and seconded to send this annexation to the Thurston County Boundary Review Board. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
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 And those opposed?
Nay.
And motion carries. Thank you. Then next up on our agenda is the Mosure 54th annexation. Back to Ryan.
All right, so one more time, another public hearing on another annexation. Let me bring it up here on my screen. So there in front of you, it should be the map showing the map of the second annexation, which is another annexation petition that the city received. This one filed by Patty Mosure for a single parcel located off of 54th Avenue Southeast. This also using the 60% petition method. Just like the previous annexation proposal, the city council is required to hold a public hearing and then send this on to the Boundary Review Board for their review. So the staff's recommendation is that you pass a motion indicating that tonight. So map on your screen shows the area proposed for annexation, which is in the southeastern portion of the city, just outside of the city in the Lakes Planning area within the Lacey Urban Growth Area. So just like the previous map, those areas shown in purple are the Lacey Urban Growth Area with the single parcel shown on the screen. The city limits is shown in green. It's located off of 54th Avenue Southeast between Lake Hill Street and Alder Glen Drive Southeast. It's an unaddressed parcel. It is about 9.83 acres. 2021 assessed value of this parcel is $222,000. There are currently no structures or any improvements on the site, but it does contain a significant amount of critical areas, including Southwick Lake and a wetland on the site, which will have to be addressed and meet our wetland protection regulations prior to any type of development. Parcel is zoned low density residential, 0 to 4 units per acre. As well as adjacent to some shoreline area that would be designated urban conservancy. Upon annexation, the zoning would remain consistent per our agreements with Thurston County. So that area would assume the same zoning upon annexation. Here's an aerial photograph showing that the property is undeveloped. It is located off 54th. This off to the west side here is Aspire Middle School. So it's located near Aspire Middle School at the south end of Southwick Lake, and just south and east of the property is City Park as well. It is served in Lacey's water service area, well served with water lines in both 54th Avenue and 53rd Avenue as well, and does have sewer service with sewer service located off of 54th and Thornberry Drive. Sorry about that. So with that, procedurally, like I mentioned, the next step is to conduct a public hearing tonight and then send this on to the Boundary Review Board to make a motion to do that. As with the previous annexation, we did not receive any written comments with this one, and I believe nobody has signed up to speak as well. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions as you move on to make your motion.
Councilmember Greenstein?
Ryan, just one question for you. So I think I guess it would be to the east. To the east of that property is still urban growth area, correct?
Correct.
Before you get to city limits, would it make more sense to be including all of that area to bring, again, kind of like the last one we talked about, straightening out the lines, making it make more sense. Is there a reason that we wouldn't consider that whole area?
Yeah, there is. And I'm trying to remember if I have a map that shows this in the slide deck. I don't think I do. But what would happen is if we took on, I believe it's called like Alder Glen or the Alder Glen subdivision, it actually connects up to Mullen Road. And so what it does is it puts us in the situation of having to annex the portion of Mullen Road that we did not annex when we did the annexation with the fire district. If you remember that a couple months ago, we finalized that annexation. And so what it would do, we would have to then annex that fronting right away along the stretch east of Timberline High School in front of the Lacey Fire Station. And so that's really the reason. The other reason is that those are older homes all on septic systems, and so we would be inheriting some liability as well with annexing some property that is not connected to city sewer. So those are kind of the two reasons why. I'm sorry I don't have a good map to show you the Mullen Road situation, but that's the primary reason why is that Mullen Road stretch that was recently approved right next to the fire station would require us to annex that.
Great, thank you.
Dr. Mayor?
Could the Boundary Review Board end up forcing us to do that?
Quite possibly. Because it is such a small parcel, less than 10 acres and less than $2 million in assessed value, it gets an expedited review with the Boundary Review Board, and most likely they won't even be looking at this. It goes, for it basically has kind of an exemption that goes for a faster review that doesn't get the full Boundary Review Board kind of treatment like some of the other annexations do.
Correct. Yeah, I remember.
Councilmember Stebbins. And meanwhile, can everyone else put your thing on mute? So I'll call on you and unmute you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, because there's no commercial in that area, they might include some of the residential because, it's more of a liability for them. They might want to just, hand it off or whatever.
Yeah, that's a good point, though. This will be expedited. So you never know with Boundary Review Board, but in this case, I don't think, it's been said that they probably won't do it. Dave, do I still need to open up a public hearing even though no one signed up from the public?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, well then I will open up this, I will close our regular scheduled meeting and open up a public hearing on the Mosure 54th Avenue annexation. And no one has signed up for this public hearing. Is there anything that the council wants to add? Then seeing none, I'll close this public hearing and then open up our regular scheduled meeting. Then I'll take a motion.
I move that we approve and send the annexation to the Thurston County Boundary Review Board for Mosure 54th Avenue annexation.
Second. Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there any opposed? Then that motion carries and we'll send that to the review board as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Then next up, we're on to proclamations, and hopefully everyone has received their proclamation, and and we will get started.
Stand by. Hold on a second. Proclamations. Oh boy. Who sent it?
It didn't come in a separate email this time. At least I didn't receive one. I got it from the packet.
It's in our Granicus thing.
Oh, gotcha.
So it's let's just go over it real quick again. I think it's Malcolm, then it goes to then it goes Ed, then it goes to Carolyn.
Carolyn, yeah.
Then it goes to, everyone got the order?
I'm just before you, correct?
And you're just before me.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try this. We'll start off with City of Lacey official proclamation. Take away, Councilor Miller.
Whereas Earth Day was created 51 years ago, recognizing the importance for everyone to protect the planet on which we live, and
whereas all life forms on Earth have a right to a healthy, sustainable environment, and
oh, Carolyn, you're on mute.
Thank you. Whereas the global community now faces extraordinary challenges, such as environmental degradation, global health issues, climate change, food and water shortages, and
whereas this,
plenty.
Whereas this obligation extends not only to today's generations, but also to the future generations who will inherit our planet from us. And
whereas Lacey exemplifies the ethos of Earth Month by its continued commitment to conserving energy and water, reducing our carbon emissions and waste, and maintaining its Tree City USA designation. And
whereas as we proclaim Earth Month, we recognize our obligation to live up to the significance of environmental stewardship every day. And
now, therefore, I, Andy Ryder, Mayor of the City of Lacey, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2021 as Earth Month in the City of Lacey. And I encourage all citizens to be aware of their impacts on our environment and to participate in stewardship opportunities to preserve local resources. Signed, myself, Mayor Andy Ryder, April 1st, 2021. Jessica, you want to add anything?
Yes, I just want to say thank you. This was the perfect month to do this. We have a lot of community engagement around this topic right now with our climate plan, urban forest plan, water savings, promotions. There's a Solarize campaign happening this month. And I think it's always a good time to recognize some of our local organizations that are doing really great work. And that's why we invited Stephanie Bishop here to accept this proclamation. And she wears many hats, but she's with South Sound Green tonight, which is basically it's a local chapter. It's South Sound Green Global Rivers Environmental Education Network. So I'm going to let Stephanie say a little bit about what she does and her work in Lacey.
Great.
Great. Mayor and council members, I just wanted to really thank you all for taking a moment to recognize Earth Month. I have a couple of slides I'm going to share, and I'll make this brief, but I just wanted to, and that's showing up okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great.
There you go.
Great. So South Sound Green is a program of the Thurston Conservation District. Some of you are familiar. It's a water quality and watershed education program that works all over Thurston County. We have a really big impact in Lacey. And I'm really proud to say that the city of Lacey has been a supporter and a sort of helping to guide the ship of this program since its inception 29 years ago. So Lacey has been a longtime supporter of watershed education for students, and really happy. It's been a great partnership so far. So this year was a little bit challenging. We take this really hands-on interactive science program and had to try to translate it into a digital format. So we started out the school year with this new initiative through North Thurston Public Schools that every fifth grader in this public school system, North Thurston Public Schools, would receive water quality and watershed education. And that's all 13 elementary schools and over 1,000 students. And so we sort of had to pivot right at the beginning of the school year to thinking about how we were going to do that during distance learning. So we came up with a couple of hands-on tangible products, like a journal that they could hold in their hands, some take-home water quality testing strips that they could explore their community, or the pond or the puddle at the end of their road, or the lake that happens to be down the street. And we created a ton of videos and even some virtual lessons that were linked to an ArcGIS-based story map, so kids could see their monitoring sites all over Lacey and all over the county, really. So we had great participation and engagement from that. We also hosted several virtual field trips, including salmon dissections and live salmon cam, like live from McLean Creek, where kids could ask questions. and a digital notebook that they could learn more about salmon. So the idea being our water quality studies all kind of come back to salmon, and we look at water quality in terms of what's healthy for salmon because it's healthy for the rest of us too. We hosted our first ever virtual Student Green Congress. This is an opportunity for kids to look at their water quality data and make some recommendations for action projects. So we had great participation, 575 students. And the real silver lining of these resources is that we realize that we can do better at reaching more students and in a more equitable way. So we anticipate using the resources developed this year to make our programs even stronger for next year. So some quotes from this is a quote from Olympic View, 5th grade student. Congress is really cool and I would really like to help make a better watershed. That's really what we hope to get at the end of the day, is having kids that are engaged and knowing that they can make a difference. And Heidi Arrington, who's a 5th grade teacher at Mountain View, just points out all the great learning that occurs during these events. And that's really all I have. I'm just, again, so appreciative and grateful to you all for taking the time and recognizing this. And I look forward to having a great Earth Month, and I hope you do too.
Great, thank you. Appreciate it. And which is great because this leads us right into the mayor's report. And I'll be reporting out on the National Mayor's Challenge, the water conservation from that put out by the Wayland Foundation. The City of Lacey's been participating in this National Mayor's Challenge for several years. And once again, we sent out a letter to all of our Lacey residents on behalf of myself and the deputy mayor, encouraging them to go on to mywaterpledge.com and sign up. And this is a friendly competition that we have between other cities that are also taking the challenge. And there are several things that you can pledge on that page, to conserve water. We obviously know here how expensive it is to bring new water resources online at the City of Lacey, and conservation is by far the least expensive way for us to be able to provide fresh, clean water to our residents for the foreseeable future. And so I encourage everyone who's listening to this and hopefully who's seen our report out that, and the letter that went out to our residents to take the pledge, and let's conserve some water, and let's hopefully beat some other cities. I know that the grand prize has typically been like there's several things that come out in the grand prizes if we win as a city. So hopefully we will do really well this year, and everyone will take the pledge, and we'll conserve some water this summer, and hopefully all year round. And I know that as a part of this, every year it's always great that the city offers several different things that we do to help you conserve some water. We usually give away some little gift bags that are available. Scar, I imagine we're still doing it this year but now with COVID, I'm not sure how that's working.
Yeah, we typically have water saving kits that we do promote. We've scaled that back because of COVID, but that's something that we resume once COVID is behind us.
Yeah, well, hopefully we at some point here in the near future we can get that back online and come and pick up your conservation kits at the City of Lacey. And so that is my report from out. Next up is the city manager's report.
And Honorable Mayor and City Council. So we have one item before you today, and that is a bid award for Bedington Mugho Improvement Project, and Scott Ager is here to provide that information.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Bear with me for just a second while I upload my screen here. So can you all see that all right?
Yep.
All right. So staff is recommending approval of Lacey contract number PW 2021-01 to low bidder South Sound Contractors from Lacey in the amount of $571,006.51. This is wholly a capacity project. So currently that section line, and here I will zoom in if I can change screens. So I'll zoom in here just by way of location reference. You have Pacific Avenue, Marvin Road, Long Lake, and McAllister Park. So this is about a 2,100 foot section that runs from 19th Avenue at McAllister Park, south along Bedington, then you go down to 27th Avenue. We're upsizing from 6 and 8 inch to 12 inch. So this, like I said, is strictly a capacity improvement. There'll be about 16 valves, in addition to the pipeline, about 16 valves, 8 sewer side stubs, and and then some decommissioning work and abandonment that goes along with this. So again, the main scope of this is 2,100 feet of 12-inch pipe. So with that, if you have questions, I'd be more than happy to answer for you.
I would move to award Lacey contract number PW 2021-01 to low bidder South Sound Contractors from Lacey, Washington, in the amount of $571,006.51.
I second it.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Deputy Mayor.
I just want to say I'm really pleased that Lacey got received the bid for this. That's great.
Absolutely. Councilor Seven.
I was going to say the same thing, but finally we're close to an engineer's estimate. Usually you're lopsided one way or the other, but this one seems pretty accurate. Go Lacey. And more public works projects are always great. So thank you.
Is there any other discussion? It's always great to see a Lacey business win one of these contracts, that's for sure. Then there's no more discussion. It's been moved and seconded to award this contract to the low bidder, South Sound Contractors from Lacey. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed? And the motion carries. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Scott, you got anything else?
Yeah, just one other item. And maybe John, can you bring in Rick Walk? I want to see if council can see this award. Kind of tough on Zoom. But Leadership Thurston County wanted to recognize our participation in Thurston Strong. And as you know, Leadership Thurston County is kind of a premier group that tries to pull civic leaders together and actually train the next generation of leaders for our area. And I know council had a long conversation about the partnership with Thurston Strong, but I really wanted to take this opportunity to kind of recognize really our role when it comes to community and economic development. We could not have a better community and economic development staff led by Rick Walk. When we did the early, response to COVID, really City of Lacey was the first that I believe in the state of Washington that actually took general fund dollars to try to deal with the pandemic. If you think about it, the Senate didn't even, actually Congress had not passed the CARES Act. So on the 25th, the Senate passed the CARES Act. The City Council on the 26th of March actually approved the first $500,000 for our small stabilization grant program. And then it was, I think the next day, Congress and the President signed in the CARES Act. That is a pretty phenomenal event for the City of Lacey. I think that's something we all need to celebrate in. And that's one thing we do need to do, is celebrate a little bit more about how we responded to try to help our businesses. So it was that issue. You may remember early on, we were scrambling to find out because the governor had shut down all businesses. So people want to know, are there, is there drive-up windows? Can you actually go to restaurants? And it was really Rick's group that went out there and tried to find those businesses that were still open to the public. And then we posted it on our website. We also had the flexible sign ordinance for temporary signage because people just know what was open. So we pivoted to that also. And really, if you think of the work that we did with the Lacey Makerspace, and even though that was prior to COVID, we had no idea that they would be on the front lines of trying to provide PPE to really our most important organizations like Providence. They've made almost 18,000 shields today. So that is phenomenal to think that they were going to be in that position to be able to provide that type of response to the community. So anyway, and then of course we had to provide inspections throughout this. So even though maybe the state was shut down, we were still trying to make sure that essential projects were moving forward. And so, and Scott Davis Group deserves credit for that, and finance, as well as, Dave, making sure that when we did the small stabilization grant, that we were in good constitutional ground. So anyway, I just want to recognize Rick and his group, because that was a huge effort. And I applaud the partnership we have in Thurston Strong, but I just want to recognize that we have skilled and very talented staff in the City of Lacey. So I just want to recognize that.
Rick, do you want to say a few words?
Oh, well, yeah. Well, thank you. You just want to say, as Scott mentioned, that it was an entire organization that pivoted and moved towards responding to this pandemic. That day that everything just changed and the tap was shut off. And with our work with the public works and building staff to keep that inspection programs going, construction moving, because that was also keeping jobs going as everything else was being shut down. And then just all the frontline staff that stopped doing what they normally did and pivoted to start reaching out and contacting members of our community, their business community, and finding out their status and trying to figure out what needs they were, so we can connect them to whatever resources. So it was a huge team effort by the entire city, and just really appreciative that everybody can respond and rally for events like this. And it also will help us in the long run too, as we get other disasters that could occur, that we could be better prepared to respond.
Councilor Seven.
Thank you, Mayor. Hey, Scott, can you hold that plaque up again? I want to get a picture. And while I'm doing that, I want to say that usually Lacey leads our region and the local municipalities and shows a good example. But sometimes we do it on a national level too, and sometimes, international level. So good for Lacey.
Yeah. So Councilmember Kunkel.
No, I just want to reiterate again. I know I've said this in the past, but I literally watched Rick walk going business to business and looking to see what the city of Lacey can do when this whole thing started. And I commend you, Rick. And I know that behind the scenes, you guys worked your tails off, and I just really appreciate that.
Absolutely. It's I've said this before, and it's absolutely true. That I think there's a reason why the city of Lacey was recognized as one of the top places to live in the United States by Money Magazine. Lacey only being the second city in Washington to receive that honor, and it's because we have just an amazing staff. I mean, I so appreciate the fact, council gets sometimes we get a lot of the credit and we're a lot of blame, but it's really our staff that is doing all the work behind the scenes that makes Lacey the community that is. From the people, public works or cleaning the streets, to Rick's staff who's involved in community economic development. It's very well known that Lacey is the preferred place to start a business and do development within the county. I'm not just making that up because I'm biased. It is very well known. And it's because of the people behind the scenes, and I say that it's more like a family here than anything else, and it really shows, and it means the world, it does. And I remember those early on conversations, with you, Rick, and geez, what are we going to do? We're in this horrible situation, and it was just so amazing to see the city respond so quickly. And obviously, we couldn't have done it without you and your great staff. So, when I look at this award, it's definitely an award going to the employees of the city of Lacey for sure. So thank you, and please pass that along to everyone, and how much your staff is appreciated, and how much everyone who works for the city of Lacey is appreciated. It does mean a lot. Councilmember Miller.
I noticed we got top billing on the plaque, and that was nice to see. And I don't remember Rick's beard being 100% gray a year ago today. So he's obviously been working hard, and
it happens. That a year like we've had this past year will do it to you. Councilmember Cox.
Well, I'd just like to add to what the mayor has said, that coming into this pandemic, it was pretty overwhelming as a council member, thinking, how in the world are we going to address that? And I think we got the most expert, wise, thoughtful guidance that we possibly could have had going into this. And so I just really, really want to thank all of our city staff. I know, Rick, having worked with you for years as a planning commissioner, I know that the work that you have done up to date to have all the ties that you do with other jurisdictions, with the business community, with the development community, you brought all of that with you to the table as we launched into this. And so my hat is off to all of you. And just, I really think this award is well deserved, but you all are the ones that deserve it.
Deputy Mayor, and then we'll end with Councilor Sedman.
So the one thing that felt like it just went smoothly, I know it probably didn't behind the scenes, but from my viewpoint and probably others, it seemed like staff handled this pretty smoothly and managed to get it going up and running faster than we expected. And I'm probably know that behind the scenes you were scrambling, but I don't see that. And that's a real plus also, I think.
Councilor Sedman.
Yeah, I just, as a board member of Lacey South Sound Chamber and a commerce person just like yourself, Mayor, and a couple of the council members on this council, we all heard from hundreds of business owners, even though, we only had 100 grants at the time, but I heard from hundreds of businesses thank me to thank staff how awesome it was that we would think about the business community, especially when we're facing a huge possible budget deficit. And we cared about them enough to, extend the olive branch and help them get through this. And those monies were immediately available, like within weeks of the shutdown. And really, that rescue plan, the first one of its kind ever, saved countless businesses. So we've all heard it. The staff doesn't hear it enough. Again, the business community loves you guys, loves the staff, loves this council because we thought about them when we didn't have to.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Rick?
If I could just add one more thing, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge this. I also want to especially call out our front counter staff in all the departments, but as the city hall was shut down, they would help facilitate that permitting processes. They're the ones that kind of pivoted to create things electronically. We weren't really set up for electronic reviews. Folks like Leah Bender, Cindy Carmichael, Jared, and Michelle in Public Works, meeting the customer at the front door to exchange the plans and facilitating that process and really help keep, while City Hall is technically shut down, help keep that activity moving. And so I just want to really recognize them. And those are the type of things that creative ways that our staff figure out how to solve these problems and provide that continual public service. And that also goes with our IS department and helping us get the technology to be able to accomplish this.
Thank you. Yeah, I know Scott said the first in Washington State. From what I can tell, I think Lacey might have been the first jurisdiction in the United States to get public dollars out for help. So it was amazing to see government actually work, for a change. When sometimes we see government not working for so many people, it's great to see it work in this case. So now we'll go on to standing general committees. First up is the General Government and Public Safety Committee. Deputy Mayor.
Yes, we met March 23rd. There's 3 items. The interim police chief, Bob Almato, gave a presentation on the independent investigation team representatives. And you probably remember with the passage of Initiative 940, the Lacey Police Department is required to provide a complete independent criminal investigation of any use of deadly force by its officers. So the agreement was formed with other local agencies, and a pool of resources provided rapid response times. The team consists of certified peace officer investigators or detectives and civilian crime scene specialists for evidence, and at least 2 non-law enforcement community representatives from member agencies. Chief Almada introduced the group of 6 community representatives chosen to serve on the IIT team and advised the committee that they would receive use of force training starting in May. The second item was the Thurston County Comprehensive Solid Waste Management Plan. And Karen Weiss from the Thurston County Interim Solid Waste Division Manager, and Wendy Miffin from HDR Inc., Senior Solid Waste Planner, presented the Thurston County Comprehensive Plan for the years 2021 to 20, and it says 2016, but I'm sure that's incorrect. I think it's through 25, but I'm not sure. And then staff provided information on the background overview of the current solid waste system, mission and goals, and flow control of the waste. And then the purpose of this plan is to develop recommendations for waste management strategies for the years 2021, 2026. Yay, I've got to correct that time, for the full requirements of RCW 7080.205. And then the completion is expected July, the end of July 2021. And the next steps include approval of an interlocal agreement with Thurston County for solid waste and hazardous waste planning.
Yeah, Deputy Mayor,
yeah.
Before you go on, I've had a couple conversations with the city manager. It looks like we're gonna have to tweak that a little bit before it comes to council on the flow control side. Before that comes to council, we'll give an update about that. But we realize there's a couple of broad statements there that I think need to be clarified a little bit more before we sign that. And so I just want council sort of a heads up that we're going to ask for that to be clarified a little bit more. Scott, you want to add anything?
Yeah, just because the interlocal agreement and there's a reference to the ordinance really needs to stand on its own. And when you're talking about flow control, what they're saying is any solid waste generated by our residents, there's some assumptions that it has to stay within Thurston County, but there's also exemptions. And so we want to make sure when we do an ordinance that the exemption is clearly articulated so there's no confusion really from a policy level, but also for our community.
Oh, good. Okay, great. Thank you. Well, the very last item is the 2020 annual report by the Parks Maintenance Right-of-Way team. And actually, that was a really interesting presentation. Our senior maintenance technician provided a 2020 annual report of the Parks Maintenance Right-of-Way team, and this reviewed the Parks Department's organizational chart and a breakdown of team responsibilities. And they listed a whole bunch of things, amazing number of things that this group does for Lacey, and he detailed figures and highlights of what was done: the ornamental landscape beds, vehicle damage repair, turf maintenance. You know, I could go on. So when you see it, it's pretty amazing how much they've covered. And you just have to congratulate them that they managed to get through all this during 2020. So that's my report.
Yeah, it is really amazing how much they do, and considering how much we've grown as a city and how many more lane miles, everything else that we've added, and we haven't added that much more staff. It is amazing how much they're responsible for, and they do. So
when you calculate all the acres and all the street trees and whatever else, I could go on, but my report would be too long. So
exactly,
I'm stopping there.
Thank you. So now next up is Land Use Committee. Councilmember Cox.
Thank you. Land Use met on March 23rd, and our sole agenda item was an update on the Thurston Regional Planning Council's Buildable Lands Report. Michael Ambrogi, Senior Planner, sorry, I'm losing her name here. Kind of walked us through the plan, gave us a briefing on it. The highlighted areas included growth management, ACT, regional goals, urban densities, residential capacity, and commercial industrial capacity. It was noted that housing densities are increasing in urban areas, and that redefining reasonable measures is not necessary at this time because we are currently meeting Growth Management Act goals. However, there are challenges and uncertainties that were acknowledged within the plan. These include sewer, rural-urban housing split, and affordable housing. Next steps are to discuss findings and strategies with jurisdiction staff. This is meaning TRPC. To work with the advisory committee on including recommendations in the buildable lands report. And then the report will be brought to the Regional Planning Council for acceptance in the late spring. And ultimately, the information will be used in periodic comprehensive plan updates. Any questions?
Any questions?
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Just very quickly, I did get, they got back to me, and if we go online, they will have an overlay of buildable lands and my other kinds of areas that you can see how much is impacted.
And now we're going on to boards, commissions, and committee reports. I'm up first, but I do not have a report. And so, Deputy Mayor. Oh, you're on mute.
I don't know why I mute myself. So anyway, I have a short presentation for Joint Animal Services, which met March 1st. And obviously the City of Lacey liaison for JASCOM was introduced, that's Shannon Kelly Fong. We had an update on our ILA, but then we've, as you know, we've actually taken action on that last council meeting. The pet point and licensing system will be shortly up and running by the end of the first quarter. And then this is a really neat thing. The surgery suite and medical area that they're putting together in back of the main building continues to be on schedule. And the permitting has been completed and the contract signed for the modular unit. So we're still on target for the building on site by the end of the first quarter. And that's my report.
Next up is Councilmember Cox.
I have no report.
Councilmember Greenstein.
No report.
Councilmember Miller.
I do have one quick report too, actually. Thurston County Coalition Against Trafficking is gearing up for its annual 5K. So if any of you are runners and you would like to support the trafficking effort, please sign up at WashingtonTraffickingPrevention.org. TRPC meets tomorrow, so I'll have a report for that next time. And then I did attend the EDC meeting last week, and one of the main things that came out of the meeting was, Washington has some supply gaps in its supply chain. So, we produce a fair amount of natural resources, but they oftentimes get shipped to other states to get refined that they might be able to get used in manufacturing. So that's one of the gaps that we have. There was one business owner who said, the products that he produces, most of the stuff is produced here in Washington, and then it goes to Texas for refinement, and then it comes back here so that he can use it and manufacture it. So, or actually goes to California so that he can use it and manufacture it. So he would, there's him and several others would like us to identify, the potential to bring some of those refining processes here to the state of Washington. We did go over some other EDC accomplishments, and the EDC's impact on our community as a whole. So, numbers wise, for every dollar that we are putting into the EDC, we are getting a $23.51 return. That translates to over 1,200 jobs, which is $80 million worth of labor income and over $329 million of economic output for Thurston County. So the EDC is a worthwhile venture and definitely providing economic benefit for the county as a whole. And I think without their help, I think they were fairly instrumental in helping Rick get his objectives met. With his COVID response, I think most of the applications went through the EDC in order to get to Rick. Is that fair to say that?
Yeah, they were the application process, look at the application process and do that part. So yeah, it was very much appreciated for them to do that work.
Yeah, and Michael Cade, he's a fantastic director. He does a really good job of leading these meetings. I also pitched something in the meeting. As you guys know, I've been trying to get that Shopko spot filled, and not only that, get it filled with something, some indoor fun for the community. In that we don't have a place for people to have fun indoors, where they can spend some of their disposable dollars and pour those back in the community. We oftentimes send those people to other communities to spend their disposable dollars in other communities. When we have space here, we are just trying to come up with a plan. And another thing that Rick Walk has been instrumental in helping me to try to develop some sort of plan to bring some of that here to Lacey so that we can capitalize on some of the things like the Great Wolf Lodge has, like the Boom Shakas have, some of the indoor activities, because we've got 7-8 months worth of rain per year, and finding kids playing outside is I look every day on the way to work and on the way home. You just rarely see it until the sun comes out. Well, they're doing something to keep themselves busy and have a good time. It's just not something that we're providing. It's a place where dollars are being spent that we're not capturing any. And so, not to drill on that and so on, but I did put that out there because I've been putting that out there since day one, and I communicated that at this meeting, asking if anybody would like to help me push this rock up that hill. So, and that was all I have to report on that meeting. Again, the TRPC meeting is tomorrow morning, where we'll probably be going over a lot of the legislative things that we're going to be asking for. And I imagine transportation will consume a good portion of that meeting once again, because infrastructure is a pretty big deal right now. And that is my report.
Thank you, Councilmember Stedman.
Thank you, Mayor. Community Action Council, nothing really special or anything that raises too much concern or attention, other than they have an influx of money. So housing and essential needs, rapid rehousing, coordinated entry, there's spending money like crazy from all the different grants and CARES Act and all that stuff. So staff is like working crazy. So they deserve a lot of recognition for that. Other than that, baseball started today. So in about an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes, I'm wearing Mariners today only because they're not playing the A's. You guys know I'm an A's. But I do always hope that one gets the Western Division and the other gets the wild card. I don't care who it is. And let's do that one game playoff. I think everybody would be happy with that. But other than that, there was something else too. I couldn't think of a good April Fool's joke either. But that's about, I think that's it for right now. So that's my report.
Councilmember Kunkel.
I have no report.
Well, then we have reached the end of our agenda. Yeah, this is opening day for baseball. This should be a national holiday. I'll pitch that for sure. I'm really excited about this young Mariners team coming up, and I'm looking forward to I get to go see a game tomorrow, which I didn't know if I was gonna be able to do, a couple months ago. So I'm pretty happy about that, and looking forward to the season. So go M's. We are going to adjourn to a quick work session, but we're gonna close this meeting until next time. Keep it classy, Lacey, and I'll call this meeting adjourned.
Do we need to log into a different meeting or just stay here?
That's a good question.
You'll stay here for the work session.
Making sure.
That's good. That's good.
Only because it's not an executive session, right?
Yeah. So